the Central Asian and Greco-Bactrian elements in the Gandhara art. Here, the entire answer for this question you can get from 11th class NCERT, the book called An Introduction to Indian Art Part 1. So, if you read that book, you can actually get the complete answer for this question. See, Central Asian means it can be Bactrian or Parthian. Bactrian, Parthian, these are Iranian region and surrounding regions of the Central Asia. Similarly, Greco, the Greek culture or Greek history can also be called as Hellenistic. Hellenistics. So we have to describe some of the Hellenistic features and Bactrian, Parthian features of the Gandhara art. See, in the introduction for this type of questions, you have to start with basically which art you are talking about. In India, the Buddhist images are mostly divided into three styles from the 1st century CE. One is the Gandhara style that you find in present day Pakistan. Second is Mathura art that you find in North India. Third is Vengi art that you find in present day Andhra Pradesh. Out of these three, particularly the Gandhara art and Mathura art are where the Buddha takes human form in the images. Now, particularly Gandhara art is a confluence, it's an integration of Central Asian, Iranian, the Parthian, Bactrian features as well as Hellenistic and also Greco-Roman features. Along with these features, it has some local Gandhara traditional features. So it's confusion of Iranian, local Gandhara, Greco-Roman features. Now, let us look at some of these features of the Buddha in the Gandhara art. Remember, Gandhara does not contain only Buddha, it contains the Bodhisattva images as well as Jataka stories. In textbook, specifically have given about Taxila. This Taxila statue of Buddha, the Taxila Buddha statue. The Buddha head is particularly given in the mentioned textbook. So, some of the features are, if you start from the head, it actually has curly hair with linear strokes, straight strokes covering the thick curly hair. That is one feature. Then the forehead plane is very large compared to the other two Buddhist arts. Large forehead plane. Then coming to the eyes are generally protruding in nature and they are half closed. The eyes are protruding and they are half closed. Then coming to the ears are elongated, particularly the ear lobes are highly elongated in the Gandhara art. And it is a Hellenistic feature, the Greco-Roman feature. Then, if you look at the overall facial expression, the face is very expressive as well as it's very calm. The calmness in the face is the main attraction of the Gandhara Buddhist art. It's expressive and there is calmness in the face. Similarly, the overall physical structure of the statue has little heaviness in it. And also it has three-dimensionality and naturalism. In the structure. So, you talk about the outlines are sharper and surface is smooth for the Gandhara art Buddhist images. Both Buddha as well as the Bodhisattva images also have sharp outlines with a smooth surface with little heaviness. All these elements are actually Greco-Bactrian and the Central Asian elements. However, we have to remember that they are not exactly Greco-Roman, they have slightly modified version because of the local Gandhara tradition. Then, if you come to the conclusion, see generally in the conclusion, it's better to write why these kind of features are there in Gandhara art. Your opinion or why it is there. One thing you can say is, see the northwestern part of India, the Gandhara, present Pakistan, that area, right from the proto-history, it is continually under the habitation. It was occupied and ruled by several kingdoms. Sometimes Romans ruled it, sometimes Greek have ruled it, and sometimes the Iranian, the Parthian had ruled it. So, due to these reasons, the local traditions have all this culture. So, if you conclude in that fashion, you will get few marks for your conclusion. As well as introduction, you have to describe what is Gandhara art, what is Buddhist art, like that. And the main body should contain the features. If possible, you can draw a diagram. If possible, you can draw a diagram of the curly hair of Buddha with the protruding eyes, if you think you are a good artist. Well, yes. The second question, the 1857 uprising was a culmination of the recurrent big and small local rebellions that had occurred in the preceding 100 years of British rule. Elucidate. See, in these kind of questions, always you better underline the keywords so that you will address each of them in your answer. See, the 18th uprisings was a culmination. The word culmination actually means two different things. One is reaching the highest point. Reaching the highest point. Highest point in the sense, this is the highest rebellion or highest revolt in the last 100 years. That is the meaning. Another meaning of culmination is reaching the end point. But 1857 revolt is not the end point, because even after the 1857 revolt, there are few local revolts. Like in 1879, there was Rampa revolt. In 1899, there was Munda rebellion. Hence, it is not the end point. However, you can say it is the highest point. So you have to address this kind of things in the given question. Then, it is the culmination of the recurrent. Recurrent means repeating. Big and small local rebellions that occurred in the preceding 100 years of British rule. That means you have to say, or you have to actually try to address the rebellions that occurred in the 100 years, 1757 to 1857. In these 100 years, what are the big and small local rebellions, and how 1857 is a kind of culminating factor of all these revolts. Let us look at how to address this question. See, in the introduction, it is better if you mention that these local rebellions as well as 1857 revolt has almost similar causes. See, the local rebellions and 18th uprisings, both of them have economic causes, social and religious causes, then it has political causes. So, the causes of most of the revolts are similar. That's why we call them as recurrent. Now, in these kind of answers, it's better if you draw a map and show various rebellions. For example, you can draw map like this. And see, there are almost 20 to 30 rebellions, important rebellions. However, because of limitation of space and time, you cannot address all of them. So better you select those rebellions in different areas of India in different times. Also select the rebellions that have caused because of different reasons also. For example, see, in the Punjab area you have Kuka rebellion that occurred in around 1840, and it is because of political reasons. Similarly, Ahom in Assam, present Assam, the Ahom rebellion occurred in 1828. It is also because of political reasons. Then in the Bengal and Jharkhand area, the Sannyasi rebellion in Bengal. It happened in the 19th century. It happened mostly from 1763 to 1800. I mean in the 18th century. And Sannyas rebellion is because of socio-religious cause. socio-religious cause. Then the Santal rebellion, Santal uprising, which occurred in almost 1855-56. Santal rebellion is economic. Because of economic reasons, it has occurred mostly. Coming to South India also there are a lot of rebellions. You can mention few of them, whichever you think you are good at, you can mention them. For example, in the Malabar area, the Polygar rebellion that has occurred. Actually, there are many Polygar rebellions. Mostly they have stopped in 1855. It is because of economic reasons. Then Vijayanagaram, the present Andhra Pradesh. Vijayanagaram, the revolt of Raja of Vijayanagaram. It is political reason. It occurred in 1794. Thus, see, when you are answering these kind of questions, it is better if you mention the revolts in different places of India. Similarly, different timelines and different reasons, political reason, socio-religious reason, economic reason, like that. Now, do not spend much time on that, because the question is not about discuss all the rebellions in India. The question is about how 1857 is the culminating factor of these rebellions. So these things you have to mention briefly in 1 or 2 lines. You can say Kuka rebellion has occurred because after the annexation of the Punjab, the British tried to restrict the rights of the landlords, etc. Because of which the Kuka movement, which was initially started as a religious reform movement, later covered as a political movement. Similarly, the Ahom rebellion in 1828, after the first Burma war, British actually promised that they will withdraw from the Assam, but actually they tried to annex the territories of the Ahom, hence they have led to a rebellion. Similarly, the Sannyasi rebellion is because the British has put some restrictions on the visiting to the pilgrim places on sannyasis, because of which they have actually raided on the treasuries, government treasuries, and it has taken enough time, a lot of time for the Britishers to control rebellion by their military action. Similarly, Santals. The Santals actually have got, are always oppressed by the outsiders, the traders, the merchants, the landlords, etc. Because of which they wanted to get rid of the outsiders, because they have taken a revolt. If you come to Raja Vijayanagaram, it's political, as British occupied the Vijayanagaram. After that, they have asked him to pay tribute of 3 lakhs and asked him to disband his military, because of which he, along with his supporters, had gone for a revolt. Similarly, Polygar. This is because of a very oppressive land revenue system, a high taxation system, which is not accepted by the people in the Malabar, in the Madras presidency only, because of which they have gone for repeated revolts, finally which was suppressed in 1855. So most of these are suppressed by the military action. Hence what happened is, by the time of 1857, already the entire India, there was unrest, there was opposition towards the British. So all of them want to take revenge on the Britishers, or they want to expel the Britishers out of their places, in every locality. So at that time, in 1857, you have to mention the trigger point is the Sepoy mutiny, the unrest in the Sepoys. Indian soldiers had unrest because of several reasons. One is racial discrimination. Of the Indian soldiers. Second is they are given low emoluments. Low salary, less facilities, low quality of food compared to their British counterparts. Because of which they have unrest. They are against the Britishers. Also, some of the religious sentiment is affected. For example, in those days, in the Hinduism, they felt that if you cross the seas, it is as if you lost your caste. So the Britishers made the Indian soldiers cross the seas during the world wars. World wars are during when the British has to fight with some country outside India. Similarly, no soldier is allowed to use any sectarian marks or religious marks. However, the trigger point is that finally both Hindu and Muslim soldiers in the British army, when they have to use the Enfield rifles, the rumor, when they have to use the Enfield rifles, the rumor is that it is made up of cow and pig fat, which affected their religious sentiment, because of which they actually started the revolt, the mutiny of the British soldiers, British officers. Then that's how it started, and these sepoys have got a very good support from the Jamindars from the nearby areas and the other local leaders, the princes from the nearby areas, who already have the unrest. For example, 1857 revolt is because of socio-religious, economic and political causes. Political, you can say, because of subsidiary aliens, because of doctrine of lapse, because of effective control, etc. And economic reasons, you can say, heavy taxation, oppressive land revenue system, and because of the no patronage for the handicraftsmen, the artisans, as British goods are mostly imported, exported into India, and the Indian artisan goods are not encouraged, because of which most of the handicraft artisans became jobless. Similarly, socio-religious causes. See, as mentioned, some of the reforms taken British, like Widow Remarriage Act, abolition of sati, or maybe the actions of some of the Christian missionaries, all these things acted against the sentiments of the Indians. So because of these reasons, there was a large scale revolt during the 1857. And remember, you have definitely mentioned that 1857 is the culminating, highest point among all the local rebellions of last 100 years, mainly because it has got the support of several localities. You can even draw a map and show what are those localities. You can say see, from Delhi, General Bakht Khan has led the rebellion, whereas from Lucknow and Kanpur, from Kanpur, Nana Sahib, from Lucknow, Begum Hazrat Mahal, from Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai has led, and similarly from Bihar, Kunwar Singh. Like that, there are several local leaders and nearby Jamindars also have helped the soldiers in this sepoy mutiny. That is why, because of coalition of several forces, though it is unplanned, unorganized, it has got huge support. Coming to the third question, examine the linkages between 19th century's Indian Renaissance and emergence of national identity. For this question, the mistake that most of the students do is they write most part of their answer on what is Indian Renaissance and various movements of the Renaissance. But only those will get the marks who link the Indian Renaissance with the national identity. Here, the linkage is the most important factor. Now, let us start with the introduction. It's better that in the introduction, you clearly mention what do you mean by Indian Renaissance and what do you mean by national identity. You better define these two terms in the introduction in just few words. You can say, as you know, Renaissance is like a rebirth. In the Europe, the Renaissance happened between the 14th and 17th centuries. That is mostly in the rational thinking, science and technology. However, in India, the 19th century Renaissance is mostly concerned with the socio-religious reforms. For example, as you know, the father of the Indian Renaissance was Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Okay? Then you come and describe what is national identity. See, national identity means feeling entire India as a cohesive whole. Feeling entire India as having a shared history, shared culture, shared past, traditions, etc. Now, after finishing the introduction, after you tell the examiner that you know what is the meaning of Indian Renaissance and you know what is the main national identity, then you move on to the main body of the answer. In the body, you take each movement of the Renaissance and describe how it is linked to the national identity. So in the introduction, you describe Renaissance and national identity. Now in the body, for example, first say the Theosophical movement, Theosophical society formed and led by the Westerners, in which Annie Besant played a very important role. Here, Annie Besant and some Westerners of the Theosophical movement actually have glorified the philosophical traditions and religious traditions of India. Thus, Indians got self-confidence, self-respect, because Westerners are coming and glorifying the India's traditions. This actually helped Indians to have a national identity of their past, of their traditions, which helped them to fight against the British with more confidence. Second, for example, you can talk about Abanindranath Tagore. Abanindranath Tagore created an Indian style of painting in the late 19th century, where he was inspired from non-Western artistic traditions. Particularly, he has drawn the inspiration from the ancient Indian and medieval Indian art. The ancient Indian art means mostly mural paintings which observe Ajanta caves, and the medieval paintings, the miniature ones, the miniature paintings. From this ancient and medieval, he has drawn inspiration and created a unique nationalist art. This we call it as a national identity in terms of art. This is artistic in terms of painting. Similarly, we can talk about Jyotirbai Phule. Jyotirbai Phule has created Satyasodhak Samaj. There, he mostly fought against the domination of the upper caste, the Brahmanical domination, wherein he is able to unite all the depressed classes. This actually created a national identity among the depressed classes, and they could actually try to fight for their justice. Then we can talk about Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Swami Dayanand Saraswati. He created Arya Samaj, where he wanted to create a national identity based on creation of a casteless and classless India with the slogan "Back to Vedas." So thus we can link this also with the national identity. Similarly, you can talk about Swami Vivekananda also. Swami Vivekananda also has spread the Upanishads, Gitas. He also tried for reviving the Hinduism, and he has spread the glory of the India's past throughout the world. Then you can talk about the father of Renaissance, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Raja Ram Mohan Roy tried to purify the Hinduism and create a common understanding about monotheism by using the Vedas and Upanishads mostly, along with the rationalism, the reason. So there are many people who are educated who agreed with Raja Ram Mohan Roy in his Brahma Samaj formed in 28, where they are able to again create a national identity about the purification of Hinduism as well as monotheism. Now, along with these things, you can mention many other movements. If the time and space permits, you can mention other movements of the Indian Renaissance and how they are linked to the national identity. However, in these kind of answers, conclusion forms a major role. That is where you get most of the marks. So in the conclusion, you have to write your opinion. In the conclusion, you have to write your opinion. For example, you can say that the cultural and intellectual isolation of India that happened for a very long time has broken with the Indian Renaissance. So India introduced itself to the world as a socially and culturally reformed country. It has brought confidence among the Indians. Similarly, these socio-religious reforms actually created nationalism among the Indians, national sentiment among the Indians, because of which they started political struggle against the British rule. For example, the political consciousness among the social elite like engineers, graduates, doctors, and such kind of social elite actually created common platforms for the political struggle against the British rule. One example that you can write is 1885. 1885, Indian National Congress was formed with the help of A.O. Hume, which became a common platform for political liberation for many Indians, social reform and autonomy of India. Towards the conclusion, you can even write about the book Discovery of India, in which Jawaharlal Nehru says that the history of India is the major national identity for the India. Hence you can say it is a culmination. Similarly, because the reasons are same, you can say it is a culmination. Also recurrent, because the rebellions are recurrently occurring in 1857. Hence you can prove this statement. This is called elucidating. Elucidating means prove with examples, give some examples. Hence you have to give all the examples. However, you don't need to agree with the end point. You can say this is not the end point. After this also there are few revolts. As I told you, 1879 the Rampa revolt and 1899 the Munda rebellion. Rampa revolt and Munda rebellion. With that you can conclude your answer. So remember, essentially you have to address every point during the question. The fourth question, if you see, assess the impacts of global warming on coral life system with examples. See, generally the common tendency of most of the students is that when they look at a question, they will be excited. For example, they know about the global warming. So they will start writing about all the facts they know about global warming. Some people will be excited, geography students, when they see coral life system and write many points about the coral life system. But such people will not get any marks for this question. You should be careful. You should understand what are the things that are exactly asked in the question. See, they say assess. You have to assess, not just point out. Assess the impact of global warming on coral life system. Not just the coral reef, but coral life system. So you have to mention the various impacts of the global warming on the coral life system along with the assessment with examples. This is the focus, examples. So as this question is for 10 marks, definitely there will be 2 to 3 marks for examples and there will be 4 to 5 marks for the impacts and assessing it. Okay? Now let us come to this one. In the introduction, as I told you previously, for 10 marks questions, your introduction should be short, maybe some 3 to 4 lines. So, in the introduction, you can explain to the evaluator that you know about the coral life system and global warming. See, the coral life system. Essentially, in the marine waters, the mammals, the marine animal, small animal called coral polyp. Coral polyp. Will be there. And these coral polyps, they secrete a hard carbonate that becomes exoskeleton. So this calcium carbonate will bind all the coral polyps in the form of a reef. It's actually the exoskeleton of the coral polyps. So on this reef, there will be a lot of algae, zooxanthellate algae that take shelter. Similarly, coral reefs provide shelter for 25% of the marine animals, 25%. That is why means everything like fish, crustaceans, molluscs, most of these things stay on the coral reefs. That is why coral reef is also called as the rainforest of the oceans. Rainforest of the oceans because of the high biodiversity in the coral reefs. So, having explained to the evaluator about the coral life system, you move on to the global warming. You can just tell that global warming is a rise in the temperature of the atmosphere mainly because of the greenhouse gases which are right now increasingly emitted by the anthropogenic activities. So after having said about global warming for some one line, you come to the impacts. You can say global warming actually leads to increase in the ocean temperature also. Ocean temperature. It's also called as ocean warming. ocean warming. Similarly, the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide are absorbed by the ocean, which leads to acidification of the ocean. See, the ocean acidification actually leads to decrease in the pH levels. As you know, the pH 7 for neutral waters. As the acidity increases, the pH will fall below 7. So pH will decrease. Similarly, ocean acidification causes diseases. It causes diseases to marine animals, same like coral reefs also. Then global warming leads to melting of glaciers and leads to rise in the sea level. Also, global warming that leads to climate change also causes increased frequency in the tropical storms. Tropical storms will be increasing. See, now you should try to tell effect of each of these things on the coral reef or the marine animals living on the coral reef. See, as the temperature of the ocean increases due to the stress on the coral reefs, as you should know, the coral polyps are very sensitive to change in temperature, change in pH, change in nutrients, etc. They actually cause coral bleaching. Coral bleaching means, as I told you, the algae which exists on the coral reefs, which gives very good colors to the coral reefs. Most of this algae will be expelled from the coral reef due to increased temperature. This expellation is called as coral bleaching because mostly it becomes white, pale white color as the color disappears. Also, you should remember that this algae provides 90% of the food for the polyps. So once algae is expelled from the coral reefs, definitely the corals will start starving for food. They start starving for food. So within next sometimes a few weeks, if the algae does not regenerate, then it slowly leads to the death of the polyps. That is the effect of the increased temperature. As I asked you to give examples, you better mention some example for everything. You can say, see, as you can say, this is geography question, it's better to draw a map. So you can say Australia, this is the Queensland, in Australia, Queensland. Near the Queensland there is Great Barrier Reef. Great Barrier Reef. And almost 35 to 50% of the Great Barrier Reef is discolored. That means coral bleaching has occurred in the Great Barrier Reef. You can tell that example. Then ocean acidification. As the pH level decreases in the ocean, it again brings stress on the coral reefs. It leads to disintegration of the coral reefs. That definitely affects the lives of several marine animals that are taking shelter in the coral reefs. Similarly, it causes diseases to the polyps as well as the animals which are living in the coral reefs. So you can say the example of the coral reefs on the Gulf of Kutch. See, the coral reefs present in the near the Gulf of Kutch definitely are not affected only by the ocean acidification. Of course, they are also affected by the other anthropogenic polluting activities happening on the coast of the Gujarat. Now, sea level rise. As the sea level rises, generally what happens is there will be more sedimentation into the ocean. As sedimentation occurs in the ocean, the coral reefs will be covered by the sediments. This covering is called as smothering. If this is the ocean, if these are the coral reefs in the ocean, the sediments coming into the ocean will smother the coral reefs, because of which the sunlight cannot really enter into the coral reefs, because of which again there will be development of dangerous algal bloom. So the sea level rise leads to sedimentation, which leads to smothering, covering of the coral reefs, that reduces the penetration of the sunlight, which in effect creates algal bloom, dangerous algal bloom, which will affect the coral life system, coral ecosystem. Then tropical storms. As we might have read in the recent newspapers also, that global warming is leading to increased frequency of the tropical storms. And tropical storms are very powerful, and with their energy they can even break or dismantle the structure of the coral reef. See, you should remember that coral reef is not in the deep depth of the ocean. It is in the surface of the ocean, I mean shallow waters. It's in the shallow waters. That's why they bear the brunt of the tropical storms. Hence, there will be effect on the structure of the coral reef. You can give example of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Actually, around the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, there are a lot of coral reefs, and during tsunami, we have observed that most of the reef structures are broken. That is an example of how tropical storms can actually break the structure. Now, having discussed about the impact of global warming on the coral reef, we have to give some examples, and geography question, one or two maps would also fetch you more marks. Now, see, you assess them, but you have to say that global warming is not the only reason for the effect on the coral life system. There are some anthropogenic activities. For example, coastal pollution. Along the coastal areas, if there are any industries, any agriculture from where the runoff contains the fertilizers, pesticides, that adds extra nutrients into the coastal area where corals are there. So the coral polyps definitely will be suffocated by the extra nutrients or pollution coming from the activities on the coastal areas. So you have to say more, then it's better to give one or two lines of your suggestion or opinion towards the end. You have to say that it is responsibility to protect the coral reefs as they are the marine ecosystem, means they are the rainforest of the oceans. So to conserve the environment, we have to start reducing the emission of the greenhouse gases, and we should take care of the coastal areas where reef is there. Like that you can conclude. So do you have any questions on this? The fifth question, discuss the causes of depletion of mangroves and explain their importance in maintaining the coastal ecology. See, there are several causes for depletion of mangroves. You cannot just enumerate the causes, but you have to discuss the causes. And see, the mangroves have a lot of importance for human beings as well as for ecology and for coast. Here they are only asking you the importance in maintaining coast ecology. So they are not asking you the importance of mangroves to human beings, only for coast ecology. Then for these kind of questions, it's better if in the introduction you just explain about what mangroves are in 2 to 3 lines, so that the evaluator understands that you know what is a mangrove. In fact, you can draw an India map and mention where the mangroves are, or a world map and show the mangrove forest, few of them. So now in the introduction, just you can write a few facts of mangroves. See, mangroves are the forests containing the trees and shrubs mostly on the intertidal zone in the coastal area. For example, this is a coast. Let us say this is the high tide line, this is the low tide line. In between, mangroves would be there in the intertidal zone. They are along the coast, and hence the species, either trees or shrubs or the animals, the species which grow there are the halophyte. They are salt loving species. So they are unique species and they shall be conserved. Also, mangroves are mostly found in the tropical areas and subtropical areas. They are not found on the temperate or polar areas because they cannot withstand very low temperatures. So with this, you generally tell them about the mangroves. Then moving on to the main body of the question, causes for depletion of mangroves. See, the causes are both natural causes, there are some natural causes, and anthropogenic causes, the human-led causes. Now, some of the causes, if you see, one is the clearing of mangroves. The clearing of mangroves, also called as deforestation. Why do we clear the mangroves, human beings mostly? For several reasons. For example, one is for aquaculture. For example, in Sundarbans, for shrimp culture, lot of mangroves have been deforested. shrimp culture in Sundarbans. Similarly, some people clear mangroves for doing agriculture. Example, you can take in Orissa, the Bhitarkanika mangroves are cleared. The Bhitarkanika in Orissa is cleared for doing agriculture. Similarly, some people clear forests for the mangrove forest for tourism. Mostly in Pakistan, the mangroves are cleared in the coastal areas for tourism. They feel that mangroves are unaesthetic because they are smelly, the trees are not beautiful. So if you clear them, you can use it for tourism. Similarly, for the human settlements, for industrialization, urbanization also, for the coastal development, they clear the mangroves. This is one of the reasons for the depletion. Second one is over-exploitation. Over-exploitation. As mangroves have a lot of trees having good timber, good wood, which you can use as furniture and for construction and other activities. Similarly, mangroves has different types of fishes. And hence, a lot of fishing is also done. So, over-exploitation, maybe for the timber, for the wood, over-exploitation for overfishing, etc. also leads to degeneration and destruction of the mangroves. Then also, the upstream activities, like if you construct any dam upstream or any irrigation facility upstream, or if you do deforestation upstream, means from where the water is coming to the mangroves, if you do any deforestation, because of deforestation, more soil erosion will happen and most of them will come to the mangrove, it will suffocate the mangrove forest. Similarly, if you consider dam, irrigation facility, or if you divert any fresh water towards the mangroves, the salinity of the mangrove water will fall down, which will also lead to destruction of the species which are halophytes, salt-loving species in the mangrove forest. Similarly, for example, the runoff, the water coming to the mangrove from any agricultural field or any industrial place. From industries, sort of polluted water may come to mangroves, or from agricultural runoff, there will be chemical fertilizers and pesticides which will choke, affect and pollute the mangroves, and thus it may destroy the mangroves. See, most of these are anthropogenic reasons. Similarly, there are some natural reasons. Like if there is a very strong flood or tsunami or any sea storm, it may destroy the mangroves. Particularly, as we have seen the coral reefs in the previous question, coral reefs actually act as the first buffer for any sea storm. If you remove the coral reef, the energy of the storm will fall on the mangroves. There is a better chance of destroying more mangroves. Hence, the removal of coral reefs can also be said as one of the reasons for destruction of the mangroves because of sea storms. So, thus you have discussed some of the causes for depletion. In this, better to write some examples of Sundarban, Bhitarkanika, tourism as I told in in Pakistan. Similarly, you can write about some Tamil Nadu mangroves, Chidambaram, the Vijayawada mangroves. You can how the deforestation in the upstream have destruction. Some examples you can mention, and you may draw it. You can draw in a map and show some of the Sundarban mangroves, Vijayawada mangroves, Bhitarkanika mangroves of Orissa. You can show. Now let us move on to importance in maintaining. What is the importance in maintaining the coastal ecology? See, mangroves are important. Mangroves are important for human beings. For example, for ecotourism, or for fishing, and otherwise for the livelihood of the poor people living on the coastal areas, who they can sell the timber or they can do fishing, etc. But these kind of benefits should not be mentioned in this question, because here you are talking about importance of mangroves in maintaining coastal ecology. So better you write points like defense. Actually, coastal defense. Mangroves defend the coastal population or the coastal ecology from the sea storms, floods, or though it cannot stop tsunami, it can reduce effect of it. So cyclones, some of the effect can be reduced by the mangroves. So they provide security for the coastal ecology. Similarly, see, the soil erosion can actually be stopped. The soil erosion can be stopped. Mostly because of the flowing water or wind, most of the coastal soil can be eroded into the sea. It can be stopped by the mangroves with their roots. The roots hold the soil tightly and stop the soil erosion. This actually keeps the fertile soil on, because of which coastal ecology can be maintained. Similarly, we can say the water, the purity or quality of water. See, just like any other wetland, mangroves has capacity to filter the pollutants and make the water clear or purify the water, which actually helps in the coastal ecology. Similarly, the most important point is biodiversity. As I told you, mangroves particularly are a place where a lot of species that either cannot stay in the sea or cannot stay in the land. Such kind of species actually grow in the mangroves. So, we can say it is a biodiversity hotspot. Mangroves are biodiversity hotspots. You can even see a lot of endangered and threatened species living in the mangroves. So, if we eliminate the mangroves, these endangered species will become extinct. So, that's another importance of the mangrove for the coastal ecology. Then also carbon sequestration. Carbon sequestration. See, sequestration is capturing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it in the soil. It is naturally done by any tree, the trees. But if you compare mangroves with generally say a tropical rainforest, compared tropical rainforest, mangroves have more potential for carbon sequestration, maybe some 3 times more carbon sequestration. There is another advantage of the mangrove forest. So, thus you can explain their advantages, and finally you can conclude by giving 1 or 2 suggestions of how can you save mangrove forest and how protection of mangrove forest helps not only the ecology but also human beings. You can say like that. So, any questions on this one?